Please be seated. As I was working my way through all the cookies and chocolate I've gotten, it seemed almost all too obvious to preach on Jeremiah, how he will fill his priests with fatness, but I figured this morning we'll stick to the Epiphany reading instead. My suspicion is that something like this may have happened to you before. It's Wednesday night, you're bored, so you decide to try out a new dessert recipe. A few hours later, the dessert doesn't just turn out well, it turns out really well. In fact, it's probably the best tiramisu that you have ever had in your life. And you think to yourself, I should make this on Saturday when Sally and Joe come over. So you do, and dessert time rolls around. You pull the tiramisu out of the refrigerator, but this time something went terribly wrong. It's a soupy mess. They're good friends, so you serve it anyway with the hope that it at least tastes good. And everyone chuckles as you place this slop in front of them. The laughs continue for the rest of the evening. And they do that because it was never really about serving the perfect dessert. It's about being together. This morning we hear the story of the Magi, the people from the east who studied the stars and noticed that a new one had appeared. And unless you were really not paying attention in Magi school, you know that this could only mean one thing: a ruler has been born. So they got out their maps and calculated that this new star was over Judea, and off they went to see this child, this newborn king. They headed to the capital city of Jerusalem, perhaps assuming it would be there where they would see the Savior of the world swaddled in fine linens. They arrived at Herod's opulent palace, pressed through the band of guards, walked through the hallways packed with silver and gold statues and sculptures adorned with fine jewels, and finally got to Herod, adorned in regal purple robes, and asked him, "Where is the King of the Jews?" Seeing their 3 treasure chests and excited about what gifts might be in there for him, Herod almost seemed to reply, "Well, right here, of course." But no, they were looking for the one who is just born. A bad thing to say to a paranoid ruler. So Herod summoned the chief priests and the scribes together to ask where, hypothetically, of course, if a new king were to have been born, in which town this would happen. After consultation, the unanimous answer was Bethlehem. Again, the Magi went off until that guiding star stopped, this time not over an opulent palace packed with precious metals and rare stones, not over a palace tightly monitored by a band of guards, not over a place where a royal family draped in violet robes would reside. But against all odds, it stopped over a barn, one you could walk right into. Walk right in and see a simple lady of the countryside adoringly looking at her newborn child, wrapped in mismatched scraps of any bands of cloth she could find to keep her baby warm. What we hear somewhat inexplicably is that at that moment when the Magi arrived, that they were overwhelmed with joy. Laughing, you might even say. Because in Magi school, one learned that kings are born in luxurious palaces, but they were just served one soupy mess of a king. Nothing was the way it was supposed to be. No palace, no guards. Instead, something infinitely more radiant than a glorious castle. The smile of a mother beaming onto her newborn child. Being wise people, I wondered if they stopped for a moment to think about what this all means. This king that didn't want the luxury of a palace, because palaces have guards. This king that didn't want a family of royalty, because royal families are to be distant and kept away from the public. This king over whom the bright new star has stopped wanted heaven to meet earth and earth to meet heaven. This king wanted to be with us, be like us, be among us. A king, a God, completely accessible to those magi, to you and to me. An anointed child to whom you can walk right up and bask in that divine light and life. That is what overwhelmed them with joy. It was never about grand palaces and lavish trappings. It was about being together, God and sinner reconciled. And so with their hearts beaming with joy, a joy brighter than any star in the sky, even that new one, they did the only thing one can do when one realizes God did all this to be among us. The Magi fell on their knees and paid him homage, an ancient way of showing allegiance, as if to say, today I follow you. Today you are my king. Now, in Magi school, they also teach you about how to give a good gift. So 3 chests they brought forward to their new Lord. The gold for his crown, which he would never get in this world. The frankincense, which takes our earthly prayers and soars them aloft to heaven, reminding us of the perpetual unity of heaven and earth and heaven, which this child affords unto us. And the myrrh, that bitter perfume used to anoint the priests of old, the very oil used to anoint the dead. They gave this knowing that this child would not be just priest, but also sacrifice. Sacrifice so that nothing would ever stand in the way between us and God's love ever again. All this happened as that new star shined above them, as a new day dawned in their hearts. After that encounter with love divine, they knew nothing would ever be the same again. So they left for their own country, but this time by another road. This is our Epiphany story too. That in those blissfully imperfect moments of our lives, by the power of some mysterious grace, we are even more poignantly able to feel the divine presence, the presence that stills our hearts as we realize God is with us always. That is God's Epiphany gift to us. And after we truly come to believe that, after we each have that divine epiphany, how could we ever travel those same roads again? Be a light. Be led by the light. And there you will find the life of the world.